Welcome to the For Health's Sake podcast, brought to you by Edito Health, elevating digital transformation with a human touch. This episode is sponsored by Radical Health Festival. It's critical to be radical.
Hello, my name is Charles Alessi, and welcome to this episode of For Health's Sake. Today, I have a very interesting person I'm going to have a conversation with. Somebody who works for a very unusual company, Innokas, a Finnish company, very active in the Nordic regions, and everywhere else for that matter. But it's an interesting company because it seems to have every tool in its toolbox. It seems to be able to do all sorts of things. And with me to unpack all this, I'm absolutely delighted to have Satu Päiväläinen, who is the head of quality and regulation at Innokas. Hello, Satu. And I'd be grateful if you introduce yourself a little and then tell us a little bit more about this extraordinary company.
Yeah. Hi, Charles, and hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here. My name is Satu Päiväläinen, and I worked as a head of quality and regulatory services at Innokas. My own background is in both academia and industry. I have a PhD in biochemistry, after which I diverted to the industry sector, started out with pharmaceuticals and went from there to food industry to medical devices, where I've now been comfortably sitting on for about 6 years. I worked for Innokas now for 4.5 years about. Started out as a quality regulatory specialist, specializing in IVD products and clinical affairs. Went from there heading my own clinical team and now heading the whole quality regulatory services team at Innokas.
So tell us a little bit more about Innokas as a company, because it is unusual, as I said, insofar as its breadth is very, very wide.
Yeah, it is. It is an unusual one. And we do also get a lot of comments on that from customers. They're sometimes surprised of our approach as well. Just to put you on the map with Innokas, I mean, we're a company has, like you said, Charles, we do everything. So starting from the fact that we do have our own medical device, we're a medical device manufacturer, a device that was developed in-house. What we offer as services is we offer all kinds of design services from anything. We have all walks of life of engineers in-house. We have our own software department. We offer the quality regulatory services, and this is all under the umbrella of design. But then there's another sector we have, and that's the contract manufacturing. So we also do manufacturing several sites, and our customers really range from small to mid-sized companies, startups to established ones. For the manufacturing part, what details more on what type of customers come away is the amount of production that they need. So we're serving kind of the midway currently, of course, always ready to grow. But yeah, we do everything. And that's one of the things why I love working at Innokas, because we work hands-on in everything. Even our quality regulatory people, I mean, we work in development projects. We work with customers, walking hand in hand with them all the way through. So we really, really do have almost 200 healthcare professional developers and workers at our fingertips on whatever competence we need.
Yeah, and I mean, you manufacture, I understand, not only in Finland, but also in Tallinn, in Estonia, and in all other places. But it's inevitable, isn't it? Here I am, let's say I'm a startup or even a small company, and I suddenly get a large contract for whatever medical device. I mean, we all know it's wonderful to get a new contract, but it's also suddenly you go, oh my God, where's my supply chain? Oh my God, where am I going to get materials? Oh, how can I get this manufactured? Oh, what do I do? So you're a turnkey in essence.
We're a turnkey. We have that all set up. We can guide you along the way. And when in the most optimal cases, we get at least part of the design on our table, which involves our designers, involves our company and our regulatory team. And that makes it easy to kind of follow through all the way to the production because we set up everything along the way.
Yeah. And, you know, perhaps for some of the audience who aren't aware of the difficulties associated with this, this is no mean feat because the design of a new product is an enormous engineering undertaking. I mean, we haven't even touched on regulation yet. We're going there in a minute. But in terms of engineering, this is a really big deal. And the likelihood, of course, is that you don't run out of your wonderful, most essential part of the product that you're designing. You suddenly realize you don't have a little widget which costs €0.50 or something. Those are the things which usually run out at you know, you need very robust supply chains, resilient supply chains. This is a big ask of a small company. It's perhaps in the blood of a big established engineering company, but small companies will find this incredibly difficult. And this is a way out in many respects. This is very, very interesting and exciting. But let's move to regulations, because regulations is of course the interesting part of this as well, given your background as well, because you started with regulations, and the regulations for medical devices has been through, shall I say, a small amount of change over the last few years.
Yeah, it's still ongoing.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So for our listeners, could you just help us understand the changes? Because there was a system which was well established in Europe, which had its problems, but it was well established. Suddenly, it all changed. Now, could you talk us through that a little?
Yeah, absolutely. And this really doesn't pertain only to the EU. Most of our customers, most of the people who want to manufacture medical devices, they want to reach other markets as well.
Yeah.
And you're probably now referring to the change from the directive to the regulation, which of course was a huge one. And the transition times are still ongoing. So the biggest changes that were there were on software, for one.
Software as a medical device is what you're talking.
Yeah, but not only the independent ones. So software as a medical device is an independent software, but software in general. Most of them were regulated or classified in the lowest risk class, meaning that they didn't need notified body involvement. Now most of
they
them
do.
are. Yeah, exactly. One of the other really big changes was on clinical evaluation. So that's a lot more stringent right now. It's a lot of times when we discuss with customers the mere resource intensity of it today is something that they're surprised with when we first kind of open it up for them, that this is all you're going to need. Same with clinical investigations relating to the evaluation. You cannot just do any clinical investigation and then use that for confirmation. There's a very, very specific way to do them if you want to use that as compliance evidence. So those are the three big changes with the MDR, a lot of small ones as well. But if we're talking about the changing of the regulatory field, I would pull in maybe a couple of other things, not only happening also in Europe, but also across the Atlantic.
Yeah, the US, of course.
Yeah. So entry of AI and machine learning into the medical devices has brought up a huge amount of new guidances, even legal requirements. And on top of that, because everything's going software, is the cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And that's a huge area altogether. Yeah. So combining what the MDR brought with what's coming up with software today, it's a huge turmoil in the field right now.
You know, Satu, I'm still surprised I was speaking about these changes of regulations about 3-4 years ago when it first started. And I am still surprised that occasionally you speak to companies that still seem to be, oh, it doesn't apply to us. And I say, no, it does. And I think there still is an underestimate, A, of the complexity, and B, of the amount of time this is going to take.
Yeah.
Because people think, oh, it's okay, it's just a small amendment. It's not, it's a fundamental rethink.
Yeah.
And it really is, because the old rules used to be based upon a drug. Now, if you apply artificial intelligence, by definition, you hope that your product will evolve.
Yeah.
Now, with a drug that you license, you hope it never evolves. So it's fundamentally different approach you need. So you need to think of the life course of a product, and that's completely different. So you mentioned the US as well, and I think in many respects the US is a little bit easier to understand than the complexities of the European Union, I think, associated with 27 nations.
You got a question in there?
Well, it's a comment. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it depends. If we're talking about FDA, they tend to have very specific guidances.
Yeah.
We also a lot of times encourage customers to not only look at the European guidances, but go for the FDA guidances, even if they're not entering there yet.
Yeah.
Because they will eventually come down to Europe as well in some form. And they write the guidances out a lot of times more specifically than in Europe.
Yes.
So in that, you're very correct that their guidance is in a way approachable.
They're easier, aren't they? They're easier. Yeah, that's what my sense is.
Yeah, it is a bit more approachable, but still, there's always device per device. There's differences, so you need to be able to not only read them, but actually interpret per each device. So it's a hard field.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a very hard field. I completely agree. Let me just develop that a little. If I were a company now and I had this wonderful device which has a little bit of AI, but is an engineer, and I haven't really started on my MDR journey, other than the obvious, which is shoot myself. I mean, which is, and I'm not proposing people do that. But, you know, that's the first reaction. Oh, my God, this is impossible. How long will this sort of process take for a company that approaches you today?
Well, it depends on the device. I know that you hate this answer. Everybody does. But it does depend on the device.
Yeah.
And on the readiness of the device, we get all kind of different projects where it can be just an idea phase. It can be a spin-off from academia where they have not looked at anything regarding to medical devices.
By definition, practically. Yes.
But then it can be a spin-off where they have.
Yeah.
And they might already be on the right track. They just need the documentation to bring everything together and do the final verifications, validations based on that. So that kind of project with a simple device, maybe depending on the readiness stage, 6 months to a year on a simple device. The more complex you get, the further you go.
The longer it takes.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And also, of course, you have to consider if we get a project on the table, there's different ways we work with companies in the development as well. Something can be outsourced totally to us, where we have a personnel who know the thrill. They run the project as we're used to running. But then there are projects where we involve the customer more because the customer wants to, and then we share the workload. And that is also something where you need to kind of balance everything, their way of working to our way of working, and see that everything moves in a singular line. And there may be also projects where we have a customer who has a partner who's developing a different part. So we had three-way rundown going on.
And this isn't unusual nowadays, actually.
No, not at all. But
So,
yeah, those more complex projects can run from like 1 to 3 years, maybe, depending on the readiness state and the complexity of the project.
so one last question, and it's a query, really, something I've always thought of as being a real quandary. So you deal a lot with startups, with small companies. Now, inevitably, if there's one thing which unites these small companies, it's the lack of depth and expertise, because by definition, because they're small, they can't be perfect, have perfect knowledge everywhere. And also, they're united by the fact that if there's something they haven't got much of, it's money. I'm not saying that big companies have loads of money to splash about, but small companies are even more challenged in that respect. So there is an extra challenge. How do you manage that relationship?
Well, we actually do help them to also recover financing. So a lot of times we, one of the like maybe the best selling things in the quality regulatory pile is the regulatory roadmap, where we map out what exactly will they need, what is the schedule that you can use to to realize the product, and how much it will eventually cost. And that's a really good tool to approach investors with, because that's already showing that somebody actually who knows what they're doing, they actually
That somebody has done the due diligence, in other words.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also after that, we've been known to go with the customer to discuss with investors, talk about the different deals, having them making the investors more comfortable in that this is actually doable. We can help them answer questions from the investors. So we also do that part.
So actually, you really walk the company through the whole process, which makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, or tandem-based Trump, whatever's your
yeah
mental image.
Well, this is really exciting, because this is an area where there is a great deal of ignorance, I think, in terms of the reality of what is happening. And I'm sure having this explained in these simple terms is really what people want to know, what they need in terms of the journey they're going on. So really, I really want to thank you ever so much for taking a little bit of time to have a conversation regarding this. Is there anything else which perhaps it's worth thinking and talking about? Because looking through your company, you also do the fast track for MDRs. Is it worth mentioning a little bit about that for people who aren't aware of the fast track process?
Yeah, I can absolutely open that up.
Yeah.
There's something that we do where you can also a company, if they don't want to set up their own quality management system and everything, they can outsource basically everything to us, which means that our personnel will take care of guiding the regulation up to in the pre-market phase. We'll take it to match up with our quality management criteria. Then with a monthly fee, we will hold up the post-market part of the device. So the company, the startup, for example, or any company, whether it's big or small, they can outsource like a whole set of processes to us that would take them a long time to set up on their own into a very ready environment already. And that takes out competence needs for them. That takes out money needs from them, and that cuts the schedule really well.
Well, I mean, absolutely, because you have a built-in governance arrangement. You don't need to manufacture your own. You have a built-in quality assurance process, because you're an established company. You can use that. So I can see the logic behind this. Thank you again. This is really interesting, because perhaps there is a way out of the morass of regulations which I think exists at the moment in terms of MDR, especially, of course, with this issue of AI, which is really now going to be with us in terms of medical devices, I think, forever, because clearly what isn't there to like about a product which will improve itself on the basis of the information it receives. You got to be stupid not to want something like that. So
yeah, but
it's inevitable.
That's a whole nother hornet's nest that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Right now, the AI that is going through regulations, it's mainly frozen when it's used, but it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's a matter of time when they start to be continuously learning more and more.
Yeah.
And that's going to be like a risk management nightmare. And you
Oh,
want,
yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
People who know
what is the balance around assurance and benefit? Because with a drug, it's easy. It never changes. If it changes, new regulation or amendment, depending on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But with this, it's changing all the time. So what do you need? Regulation, new application every 5 minutes? You can't have that.
No, but actually, when you're looking at what I was saying, that the FDA is coming out with a lot of guidance, they have this inbuilt already.
Yes, I know. And that's what I meant when I said, it's understandable. At least to me, I'm not trained in this, but I understood it. So if I understood it, anybody can.
Exactly. And that's not the only thing changing, actually. One of the things that is coming in more and more in the device sector as well is personalized medicine or medical devices.
Yes.
And combining that with AI, it's a really, it's so interesting. It's so interesting.
I have to work that in my head first, because those are tectonic plates which you're putting. It's actually it's going to be more complicated. I think that's for another day, because I couldn't cope with it.
It is for another day, but that's one of the things about Innokas still on this matter. As not that we only have like engineers of all walks of life, and for example, we have our own software department under the design umbrella.
Yeah.
But we also, through the quality regulatory team, we have both healthcare competence, and we also have a lot of scientific competence. So this is the kind of thing that kind of maybe sets us apart in at least with some of the competitors.
Yes.
That we're not, when we're working in developmental projects, we're not only offering options that we have used before, but we're actually going down to the nitty-gritty, talking to academic scientists in their language.
Yeah.
And approaching things from a scientific perspective. And that's one of the things that we get a lot of good reviews about.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Satu. I look forward to seeing you in Helsinki, because, of course, we're meeting soon in a few weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
I hope we have the opportunity to actually unpack this a little bit more, because I think this is one of the most fascinating and difficult subjects. But one for which it seems as though there are some solutions. So thank you very, very much for having the time to speak to me today, and we speak again soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was really nice talking to you, Charles, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.